Okay, so before we move on to the other processes of this model, I want to go over the actual construct layout of the Frere's model. Starting over at the educational processes, we're going to be doing some small and large group discussions to facilitate communication, get that two-way communication going between the older students and the younger students, and then also between the moderators will be the teachers. There will be some role play, some brainstorming, and some team building exercises. These will stimulate real life experiences, help people learn to know when you should ask for consent, what consent is, and how to ask for it. Having team building exercises will build a close knit community so you feel like you're more independent and that you can make a choice to say yes or no. A pilot project will be run to test the ability of this program and how well it did. There will also be some case studies. So these case studies are actually a great way for information and education. So you'll be given a case study on a scenario and you will be expected to respond in a certain way for how you would react if you were in that scenario. And that will also promote the learning process. And then finally, we'll have the group formation. So all these educational processes will lead to the constructs of dialogue, consentization, praxis, transformation, and critical consciousness, which will then lead to our behavioral objectives. So our behavioral objectives are broken down into three. The first one would be forming better communications and increasing confidence. We want to form better communications so that people feel more at ease asking for consent and feel safe to say no if they don't want to do something, or feel safe to say yes if they do. And having that increased confidence is going to give them the ability to make the choice they want to make. One of our objectives is an action to change sex education classes. Currently, I don't believe sex education classes really focus on consent and how to act in that scenario. So if we can add that into the curriculum, which is the purpose of this program, that would be beneficial for the students and for teachers, I believe. And then finally, we want to have a team of equal students, teachers, and health educators to get that two-way communication going. And then the final behavioral outcome would be obtaining consent every single time. So Frere's model has three phases, which are the naming, the reflection, and the action phases. So I want to go over these very briefly before we go on. The first phase is a naming phase, and this is where it's asked, what is the question under discussion and what is the problem? So in this step, equal partnership and discussion is emphasized between the two groups, and for this program, it would be the students, older and younger, as they both work on identifying problems as well as determining priorities. The second phase is the reflection. Here in this phase, we ask, how do we explain this situation and why is this the case? You get more in-depth discussion and you want to help individuals express their emotional and social responses. There is a code system that can be used to explain this phase. So these codes would make the issue of consent more relevant and easier to relate for the students. A 5-stage questioning strategy could also be employed to help individuals communicate their feelings. Some of the questions could include describing what they feel, as a group defining the many levels of the problem, sharing similar experiences from their lives, questioning why this problem of consent exists, and developing action plans to address the problem. The final phase is the action phase, where the questions what can be done to change the situation and what options do we have are asked. This is probably one of the most important stages, as it emphasizes the creation of an action plan specifically from the population which is focused on. The students have their own perspective on consent, and to use it to create effective strategies would be the best option for this phase.